walking across the snow and Terra's theme is playing.
Right.
Oh man, that's beautiful. And then
It
you have the adventure inherent in Locke's theme. You have the regalness in Sabine and Edgar's theme.
And talking about the use of instruments too, I love the way, one of the things, an underrated song from that soundtrack that I listen to and really brings back a lot of nostalgia for me, is the Narsh theme, which is kind of out of the way, and it's got this one instrument where there's this virtual breathing, like there's this, and so you see Uematsu using the instrumentation to do other things than just turning an instrument on and turning an instrument off. He's going for specific kinds of sound effects that layer it in ways that I don't remember that happening at all in 4, and it was just so well done in 6.
Theme is, for my money, perhaps the best piece, and by extension Celis' theme, because it's a variation of that, but just the best piece. It's beautiful and puts you together, and I guess for the old school Final Fantasy players, the opera theme may be their version of Aeris's death. You know, it's just like the thing that makes you go, oh my god.
Yeah, so it was very pleasant memories about the opera. You know, ridiculous from a gameplay perspective, but, and from, from a narrative perspective, because gameplay was actually pretty fun. It was fun to play through the opera.
What's really funny about that is that in the original translation that they came out with, the words did not match the notes coming out of Celis's mouth at all. But you know what? In my head, I tried to squeeze it together as much as I could. They kind of fixed that with the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah. No problem. No problem at all. I mean,
so funny.
It's still one of those things where you kind of have this emotional connection to it, and I think anybody that played that game will instantly recognize the themes from it.
I would say, however, that the second place for best musical composition in the 16-bit era would be Chrono Trigger.
You'll get no argument from me there.
Once again, another example where almost every theme in that game is just a wonderful work of art.
Chrono Trigger, yes.
Is
Yasunori Mitsuda, who is very underrated, especially because his name didn't even appear in the credits as the main composer for the game, because Nobuo Uematsu did appear because he saved him and did some. I've heard some numbers about this, and I don't know the exact one, but I think Matsuda did approximately 80 to 85% of the music that's actually in the game.
And that's amazing, because this is another game like Final Fantasy VI where virtually all the themes in it are just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Frog's theme, the Lucas theme, Robo's theme. You know, it's just all...
AKA Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you know, just saying. We should start a new thing.
It's a timeless tune.
Yeah, it is. It's a timeless tune. You can never outgrow Rick Astley. These incredibly enduring themes, again appearing inside of a game that it's a great game. I mean, it is a great game, and the game itself could really stand on its own. But the music really just puts it over the top. There's this just incredible connection you have if you hear the introduction to the Chrono Trigger theme. You just automatically are thrown back into the first time you played Chrono Trigger.
And you know what other game really just throws you into it with its music?
No, but I think you're going to tell me.
Earthbound.
Uh,
Yeah, you know it's amazing.
I no comment.
Earthbound, I would say, especially with the ending themes.
Well, I never got that far, so I wouldn't.
Well, that's your loss.
Yeah.
But the ending theme, and I heard a composition or an arrangement done by not Play, but it was like the Tokyo Symphony Orchestra or something. I think it was back in the '90s, where they put out a few CDs of video game music, and they did an arrangement of "Because I Love You," which is kind of just one of the themes throughout the whole thing. It's like the Ness and Paula theme. Beautiful, very beautiful.
Little boy with a baseball bat theme.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, okay.
Little boy with his baseball bat.
Whatever.
But no, I mean that's another game where the music is well, the music is very important because the whole purpose of the game is to go get these 8 tunes that let you do this, that, and the other to kill the big bad guy. But it's kind of funny how that makes use of the music in that instance.
Cool, and for me, the other piece that's really interesting to talk about is ActRaiser. Honorable mention for ActRaiser. I know that there's some really interesting kind of organ stuff that happens in ActRaiser, which is really cool.
My favorite, absolute favorite part of ActRaiser is, and this is amazing considering it was, if it wasn't a first generation Super Nintendo game, it was very close. But the first level, first stage,
Right.
Fillmore Act 1, when you first get in there and you're fighting in the forest, just the driving theme that is underlying the action there just really gets you pumped up for the game. Unfortunately, the music for the whole game is very good. I don't think it ever gets as good as that first opening act.
Well, you know, you're also taken to a different game mode at that point. So it really does punctuate that narrative moment really very well.
It's a great game anyway.
Next, we're going to take the leap into, which was a big leap musically, because although music, in terms of synthesizing via an audio chip, was still very important for this generation, we make the jump into Redbook audio. PC was doing the same thing at this time. We'll talk about some PC games a little bit later. We're going to kind of jumping out of the timeline with that a little bit, but there was this use of actual pre-recorded music as soundtrack to video game play.
With PlayStation.
With a PlayStation specifically. Although it's not only just the PlayStation, because there certainly were, like I'm thinking Shadows of the Empire for 64, which was Redbook audio, and actually really great Redbook audio. So interesting. So let's Redbook or not, let's talk about the best of the things that happened for the N64 and PlayStation 1 generations in terms of music.
I would say, going along with the theme from last generation, Final Fantasy VII, it has some very enduring themes that still go on today.
Well, I remember when we went to play, specifically where everyone was screaming and clamoring to hear something from Final Fantasy VII, specifically One Winged Angel, which actually was played as the encore.
Yes.
I think you can make an argument that this is Nobuo Uematsu's best soundtrack, most complete from top to bottom.
Some would argue that. Some might say it was, either 6 or 7. That's probably what most people would say, one of those two.
I think it's more of an age indicator, maybe, because you see the people that kind of grew up with 7 and the people that grew up with 6. And I mean, for me, it's all about 6, but I can see why someone would say 7.
One Winged Angel is perhaps the best boss music ever.
Absolutely.
I would say.
Agreed.
It's very chilling, and once again, the use of choral is amazing there.
Right.
Eris's theme is soft and sweet and tender. However, if you think back a little bit and listen to Celis's theme, there are little motifs that are kind of reused there. I think most of the music from Final Fantasy VII has a special place in people's memories.
Again, very much identifiable.
Because it's epic, very epic.
Epic and identifiable immediately with the game. There's no way you can listen to that music and not think of Final Fantasy VII.
again, go back to perhaps second place, Chrono Cross. I thought it was a bit of a mediocre game, but the music was still amazing, stupendous. Same composer.
Yoshinori Mitsuda from the Chrono Trigger.
Yes.
Chrono Cross does something that I have not been able to find in almost any other video game ever, and that is it kind of so completely encompasses a mood, a setting, a place and time that is so readily identifiable. If you've never played Chrono Cross, you can listen to a song from Chrono Cross and kind of see the imagery from it. Because I played Chrono Cross. I've never beaten Chrono Cross, but I never got that far because, like you said, it's not a very interesting game. But as you go through the game,
it's very convoluted.
There's all kinds of imagery, and there's all these, you know, the ocean plays a very important part in the game. There's all these kind of oceanic music that comes along.
So let me ask you this: what is on your cell phone right now? What is your ringtone?
I actually have a theme from Chrono Cross.
Go past Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for just a second.
Great music.
Even though there's great music in that, I would say Super Mario Kart had some of the best music this generation, especially Rainbow Road.
Right.
I think this is the best Rainbow Road theme that's been done.
Making the same kind of argument that I made for Double Dragon, because there is some music in there that you kind of go, this is kind of kiddie stuff and not really very well thought out. Even though it fits the game really well, it's certainly not something you're going to listen to and go, oh, wow, what a great, I remember the song.
It's not necessarily memorable.
No.
But Rainbow Road.
But Rainbow Road is absolutely fantastic, and I've heard some great remixes, some great reimaginings and I guess arrangements of that particular piece, and it's just spectacular. So you should definitely check that out, folks.
And I would say that going back, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time had some classic themes that are still being used in Zelda games today. I mean, Zelda's Lullaby, which actually predates it by a little bit, but they really fleshed it out more.
And with Ocarina of Time, I mean, the focus is an ocarina, so there's a lot of music involved in that game.
Yeah, when music is used as a storytelling device, you know they're going to have to get some good tunes going on in there.
So now we have to get to one of my favorites from this era on the PlayStation, which is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But the music is fantastic because it runs the gamut of different kinds and styles of music. There's choral music, there's orchestral music, there's techno music, there's kind of hard rock and heavy metal themes. It really does everything, and it does them all surprisingly well. All very melody driven, all very thematic. And I just think that you could play 100 video games and not find anything nearly as good as the music in Symphony of the Night.
Well, after all, what is a soundtrack but a miserable pile of songs?
No, great. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So, and again, with a name like Symphony of the Night, they better have good music, and it really does pull through that way. And